One of the questions that I'm often asked is, how safe is my tree? In order to answer that question, you first must understand all the unique characteristics, the strengths and weaknesses of the type of tree that you are asking the question about. This particular tree is an Italian stone pine. It's a very large, fairly old specimen. I would guess this tree to be 60 to 70 years old. Now, the Italian stone pine is one of those trees that is recognized for having some inherent weaknesses. I know for a fact that this type of tree is prone to splitting big branches, but it can go for years and years without that happening. So what you have to look for are the weaknesses in the structure of the tree. It's also a difficult tree to make the correct decisions on because all the foliage is way out on the very ends. You can't just stub this tree back. There's a lot of dead wood up in here, and if you look at the main crotch system right here, that big limb off to the right there, that's not the best attachment. So the possibility of this tree splitting and going into two directions is very real. So what do? Well, first off, this tree ideally should be pruned in the cooler season. There's yet a couple more beautiful examples of the Italian stone pine in Saratoga. This is another example of a significant old Italian stone pine. This tree is almost 100 years old. This has some history to it. It was planted in 1918 along with a number of other stone pines in Saratoga. And as you can see, this tree has had a few big failures over its life. Incredible specimen. It's really sad that it's reached the end of its lifespan. And it could have been minimized had it been looked at years and years ago and some appropriate weight reduction had been performed on it. But once it gets to a point where all the growth is way out of the very ends, it's difficult to do the weight reduction because all you can do is take a few limbs off, but you can't reduce the overall size of the tree. This is a massive tree with a trunk diameter of, it's about 5 feet at the base, and it is just amazing. It used to spread widely clear over to the right there, but one by one the branches have been breaking off, and now the majority of the foliage is over on this left-hand side. And it's weak. Someday that's going to fail as well. Now there's a real interesting story about this tree. Back in the 60s when this church was originally built, and this was all part of the old ranch property, this tree had a tree house hidden way up high in all the foliage. There was some steps all the way up there, and there was a family that lived up there with children, and for quite a long period of time the family would vacate during the day during the construction and go home at night, and people knew about it and they just kind of looked the other way until it reached a point of, well, it's time to move on. But this magnificent specimen here was somebody's home at one time. Look at this. I can't even go a third of the way around this tree. It is enormous. It's an Italian stone pine, and it is a classic. Now these trees in the front here are also Italian stone pines. They're fairly young specimens, maybe 8 to 12 years old, and they've reached a height of about 30 feet or so. Very possible they're offspring from the giant in the background. But this grouping here, there's 5 trees, is really overcrowded. I could see that if they took out, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take out 2 and 4 and leave 1, 3, and 5, that's a little better spacing. They're not the well, number 5 5 is a real small tree and it's too close to the oaks. So making the decision here is really tough. Frankly, there's 5 trees here. If they got rid of 1, 2, 4, 5, and just left number 3 as the dominant, that would probably be the wise decision, because you have to look at the whole environment. What else is going on around here? We've got a number of live oaks in the back that are, they're fairly large, but over on the side here, we've got a lot of younger live oaks that are going to get significantly larger. So the decision about what stays and what goes should be made early rather than later, because the competition of all these trees will ultimately decide the outcome of how this area evolves.